Sacramento highway, cool wind in my hair, a rotten smell of ambition in the air. Up ahead there's an election, Biden was forced to step down. A new contender jumped ahead, Kamala now has the crown. Borders are, she was christened.
Do not come.
She should visit someday.
Not today.
Hasn't been there or Europe.
I haven't been to Europe.
What does it matter anyway? So illegals keep crossing, unchallenged they come. From Kamala Harris, nothing's to be done. Welcome to Kamala's California. Such a high-tax place, such a high-tax place, such a littered space. They want the U.S. like Kamala's California. Something I despise, something I despise. Let's do better, guys. She's got pronouns in her email.
My pronouns are she and
Tracked
her.
inflation so high. She's pushing solar panels and saying gasoline should die. Taxation dances in the courtyard. Green New Deal so sweet. Subsidies for billionaires while others can't afford to eat. Welcome to Kamala's California. Such a high-tax place, such a high-tax place, such a big disgrace. Hard to survive in Kamala's California. What a harsh surprise, what a harsh surprise. There's no end in sight.
I'm not finished.
Crime so rampant they're fleeing.
Companies packing their bags.
Empty stores from the take, and she said, we are all just victims here of the policies we make.
Prices have gone up.
From the vice president's mansion, she makes plans with glee. She's looking to California. She didn't just fall
fell out of a coconut tree.
Last thing I remember, I was dodging their schemes, trying hard to find the truth again beyond their false daydreams. Relax, said the spokesman. We are programmed to deceive. Soon enough, this will all be nationwide, so you can never leave.
They got what they asked for.
And we're back on a Tuesday night, soon to be Wednesday morning. We're grateful to have everybody back with us tonight, and we're waiting Miss Magdalene Rose to give us a call here in just a second, and then we got James Akers coming up a little bit later tonight. I didn't watch it. I've watched these Twitter feeds. Hang on just a second. Let me get the slide adjusted here a little bit so we can not have a shadow on us. What a mess with the debate. The Harris-Trump debate went down about what most people expected it to be. The All the Crap Network and Harris versus Trump. And we're going to get your thoughts on this tonight, so just bear with us. We're going to get Magdalene on the Rose on the phone and get her take on it. My initial thing, here she is calling in. Let's get Magdalene's thoughts, and then we'll talk to y'all about it here. Miss Rose, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You're on live. You just we've thrown you into the fire right away, kid. What's up with you tonight?
Well, I'm not super happy after that debate.
Well, what was your take on the debate? Tell me what your first thoughts are.
So my first thought is this. I think that the Trump debate prep team is a group of people who are chronically online and obsessed with Twitter. And that's great if you're a social media person or digital strategist. But if you're a debate prep coach or part of the prep team in general, things that work on social media, like this Haitian immigrants and the cat eating and everything, on social media, it's edgy and quirky and you're on the cutting edge. But when you say it on live television, you sound like a deranged person staring up at the sky, saying, well, I saw it on TV, that man ate that neighbor's cat. And that is sort of the issue here, is that much of what Donald Trump said and did, it plays well on Twitter, but when it's on television, he just sounds crazy.
Well, I'll agree with that, Magdalene, but you got to admit, I mean, and I'm with you, and James Akers is about to come in behind you, and he's chimed in basically the same thing, that it wasn't Trump's finest hour tonight, but look, I don't think anybody with the situation, and look, it was pretty evident from people that watched this, that wasn't even political people, that he was debating Harris and the ABC team, and going into this, now I'm going to agree with you wholeheartedly on this. I felt like, and I sensed this last night before even tonight's debate, that her strategy was to get him to say stuff that was not policy, that was to be, be able to be having Twitter feeds tomorrow just full of little snippets of these things that he said. I don't think that anybody won or lost tonight. I don't think anybody that's not going to, I'll put it like this, nobody that was going to vote for Trump before the debate's not going to vote for him. Nobody that probably is not going to vote for Harris they're not going to change their vote for her. I don't think it swayed the independents much. I think this all, when you get down to it, Kamala Harris still has a problem with her policies and what she's going to do when she governs the country. These debates are just for the networks. These are for TV. This is for movie. This is for snippets on Twitter. This is for the podcasters to chew on and have their moment in the sun tomorrow and trash Trump and trash Harris. And I just personally, that's one reason I don't invest a lot of time watching it. I've seen this through the years a lot, that these debates are overrated. I think the only one in history, and me and you, neither one was born, that was actually lost a presidency was Nixon in 1962. And most people would have said that if you'd have heard the debate instead of watched it, Nixon probably won the debate with Kennedy. But he was not the best shape that night. He had been on the road. He looked unshaven. He looked like this old haggard man against this young whippersnapper Democrat from Massachusetts, and it was a no-win. I'm with you this. I wish Trump's people would get a brain on them and realize what they're up against. And I think that they're depending on his Twitter social media presence, Magdalene, to carry him in this. And I'm sorry, it cannot. He's going to have to start being a campaigner.
He is, and I don't understand why they didn't mention the fact that he didn't really mention the fact that he was almost assassinated. Like, there's these massive gaps of discussion. So he doesn't mention the fact that she's covering up, and has been for 4 years, including the campaigning, she's covering up for Joe Biden having dementia. He doesn't mention the fact that, aside from one comment about political discourse, that he was almost assassinated in Pennsylvania. He doesn't mention the fact that her husband has had scandals come out against him about cheating and possibly coercing abortions. He doesn't talk about any of it. And instead, we get into the weeds on Ukraine. But we don't get into the weeds on a policy level. We get into the weeds on this strange, she met with Putin, she didn't meet with Putin. He looked crazy. And he had good moments. I've always thought that Donald Trump can debate very well for approximately 25 minutes. And then it just sort of peters off. And by the time you get to over an hour, you're in trouble. And the exception to that was I think the second debate with Hillary Clinton, where they were walking around as more of a forum. He was able to really sort that, but that was because the audience was involved. So there's no live audience. I think it's just their family members. And he just began to fall apart. And I don't understand why at this point, this many years in, Donald Trump does not have answers to the 5 big sections of policy: climate change, foreign policy, the economy. He should have written out statements that he's memorized that he could sub in for not wanting to really answer a question. Kamala Harris has those, and you can tell because her whole body positioning changes, her posture. When she talked about abortion, for example, her opening statement to that question about it was pre-written. And not because she had a question ahead of time, because she has a statement she gives. He doesn't have that, and at this point, I don't really understand what the debate preppers gave him. I'd love to see what they didn't give him, because perhaps that would have been a better strategy.
Well, that just frustrates me even more, though, that they weren't more prepared for this. And look, he knew going into this, he was on the All But Crap network. Look, and I'm upset with the network tonight. I don't believe they gave him a fair shake. But at the end of the day, it's the card that you're dealt. You either cry about it or you carry your backside in there and you kick some ass. And see, that's what he didn't do tonight. And I think that it was overwhelming, and I'm with you. He's been through this rodeo enough with Hillary. He's been through this rodeo with Joe Biden. They should have known what was coming, Magdalene. They should have known that ABC was not going to give him any kind of leeway, and they were basically fighting. He was fighting them, but it's the same thing what Romney did with Obama back in 2012 with Candy Crowley. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's like we get these memos and like, oh my God, ABC was fixed for Harris. Well, what the hell do you expect? Of course they were fixed for her because they're liberal media and they want her to win. They don't want Trump to win. Of course they are. That's not a memo tonight. But see, this is the thing. If Trump did not want that debate, it did not want those dimensions, then don't go do it. Because you don't believe that she's turned down Fox because she knows she would not get that same treatment at Fox that she got tonight.
No, she wouldn't. And then he had this weird moment. I don't remember if it was Charlottesville or January 6th they were talking about, but he began listing out names like Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters as if they would be perceived as sources of high-level record in this country. And he sort of did it to compete a little bit, I think, with her listing out of people at the Wharton School of Finance and Nobel Prize winners and economists. And it didn't work because it's ridiculous. Because the idea that you can put those two groups of people next to each other on paper in people's minds doesn't make sense. And I just don't understand how a woman who is presiding over the worst presidency in modern history, worse than Obama's by a huge margin, Joe Biden's is, was never asked any real questions by Donald Trump himself, dismissing the moderators, why Donald Trump didn't say to her, but what are you doing to relieve the burden off of a middle-class family with 5 children who can't afford daycare but can't afford for anyone to stay home because then they can't feed their kids? Like, where was that? There's this gap in discussing the economy that Trump had where he talked about inflation, but none of the real costs of it. And again, it looks to me like he was prepped by a bunch of people who love Twitter and do not go outside. You know, once my mom and I were at an event in DC where we got in the elevator with a young man who's a political commentator, a very high level, and we heard him talking about the different outfits he was going to wear. And he said, well, I have the jean outfit for this event. And it's a thing we say to each other when we see this kind of thing by a Trump team member. Like, he was prepped by the jean outfit people of DC. And somehow she managed to not look like an idiot and not have word salads. So good on her. But I'd love to know who her debate people are and if we can sway them away from the DNC to the RNC.
Well, this is the thing, and I think this is the thing that everybody on the Trump side needs to take a deep breath about tonight. It's September. The election's 2 months away. This debate is not going to carry her to victory. But it's not his shining moment. I will tell you this. He looked like Joe Biden tonight. I mean, from what I'm reading and hearing, there were gaffes that he had. He looked like Joe Biden did a month ago. And Magdalene, I'm going to give you credit. You said this. You called this in one of the shows we did that this was going to be his challenge because he was no longer going up against a nursing home patient. He was going up against a woman that's in her 50s or how old she is. She's young. And she's become the old man now. And tonight, I mean, again, if he didn't want this kind of format and didn't want to go into this den of lions, don't go. But if you're going to go into their dadgummit fight, don't let these people run over you. And I'm with you. Give it, and why worry about Ukraine? This election, we're not spending $10 a gallon of gas for Ukraine. The Ukrainian crap don't matter to a hill of beans to most people, except for the people that do concern themselves with the debt and wasteful money. What's causing people to go broke tonight are the grocery store prices, the gas prices, the illegal immigration, the jobs being taken away, $150,000 being given to illegals in California to get home loans when a normal person that works 40 hours a week in America can't afford to buy a freaking 1/3 of a mobile home tonight because of the prices of the homes and things of this nature. And then you've got this corrupt media. You've got this insane foreign policy where America's being trashed left and right. Israel's being attacked. Nobody does. We had another American be killed today. Nothing is being done. We're being slapped all over the place. And then her had the audacity that says that world leaders thinks he's a disgrace. And again, that would have been where I'd have turned to her and I'd have laid right into her about their foreign policy for the last 4 years, about the disgraceful. Afghanistan, from what I understand, was not even brought up, maybe. And then to allow these moderators to do what they did, you know, I just look. I'm not going to say that you're. I'm not going to put it all on Kamala Harris tonight. Look, Donald Trump went into that debate evidently ill prepared, and I'm with you. It goes back to the people prepping him. And I think that he went in there with this idea that I can do my social media Twitter thing and she's just going to fall on her face. He should have known better. He should have known better in this debate for him that it was that was going to happen, Mac.
He should have. And I loved social media, but I was also a debater in high school. I was a debate captain. And there is a difference between what does well on social media and what people care about on social media and what people care about when speaking, when in live audience performance, or even without an audience. And one of the things that it just doesn't make any sense to me is that Trump's standing there with this record of foreign policy, with the amount of hostage negotiations for Americans to be released that he did is astronomical. He never mentioned it. He never brought it up. So Kamala Harris stands there as if she's this great person, and she gives him this look, this, oh, poor you, pity look throughout the entire thing. And it's so sickening. But you see it, and she does it in different ways. So she doesn't have one facial expression through the whole thing. She does this pitying look to him, and he never brings up his accomplishments, and I don't understand why. He doesn't bring up the hostages, he doesn't bring up low gas prices, and the fact that the Biden administration has had to release emergency barrel rations in order to lower gas prices. They had to do that in 2022, I believe. So he never brings up any of this data, and I will tell you, it is the people who prepped him. It is this group of sort of like frat boys, and there's nothing wrong with frat boys, but that's who he's hired, and they don't know how to do this. They're not nuanced enough in debate prep to figure out how to prep him for this. And this is my real overarching problem is, who was his performance for? It wasn't for suburban women. It wasn't for independents. It wasn't for his base, because it wasn't MAGA enough. So who did he do this for? Who was he serving? I think they think it helped them with young people and independents. I don't see any evidence of that.
Do you think it helped anything? Did he do anything tonight that helped himself in this?
No, and you mentioned the contrast age range wise. She's, I think, just turned 60 or is 59, one of the two, and it's a big gap. It's not an astronomical gap, but it's a big gap. And although, of course, I don't think Donald Trump has dementia at all, I don't even think he's cognitively impaired, but he had these slip-ups where he referred to, for example, West Virginia instead of Virginia. And I think she made one as well. She called him vice president rather than president. So they're not in the media going to go back and forth with the gaffes in the same way. But he didn't look like somebody who knew the details. And the bar for Donald Trump knowing the details is nowhere near as high as for other people in politics. So when he goes out there and is basically studied, that's okay. And there's this famous line that Hillary Clinton did, I think is after the first debate with him, where he had said, you spent all this time studying. She's like, yes, I prepared for this. And he lost that debate with Hillary Clinton. It reminds me of that to some degree. I think the first 20 minutes were very good. I think they were very solid. But what I don't get is how she, as somebody who has been in public for so long, has gone from somebody who stumbles and, like you said, word salads and all these things, and none of that happened. So what level of prep did they do? Maybe we haven't seen her because they've been completely rebooting her dialogue ability. We haven't seen her because they've completely retrained her in public speaking. And if that is the case, we have greatly underestimated her team and what her dedication to winning this office really is.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not going to throw him under the bus tonight because he was in a lion's den, but I think that he could have done better, and I'm with you. I wanted to be able to come on this network tonight and say we heard some policy discussion. Now, I know the sentiment's out there, and I'm already seeing it in the chat room tonight, that she may have been prepped by the network or got the questions. We don't know that yet, so please, folks, we don't know that. I think that it's likely that she was pretty much her people had her ready for this tonight. She was fired up and ready. And James is going to come on here in a minute. And his comment to me was, he said, "I hope she fell on her face tonight," and she didn't. And she didn't fall on her face, Magdalene. She held her own against Donald Trump. And look, it's not going to. I don't know if this short. I'm sure. I think this next week there will be a boost for her a little bit. But it's still going to come down to the American public seeing through. Now, the one thing I do agree in the chat room, there were lies that she uttered from the beginning and was not fact-checked by those moderators. But again, folks, you can't expect the All But Crap Network to fact-check their own. They're not going to do it. They've never done it. These moderators, even the Fox moderators, when they got a dim president, they don't ever do that. I mean, I remember the Trump interviews on Fox. They were worse than the ones on MSNBC and NBC. Magdalene, because of Chris Wallace, you had these rhino Democrats over there. They hate Trump on the right just like they hate him on the left.
They definitely do. And she brought up John McCain and Mitt Romney and the slew of Republicans who have endorsed her. And to me, it really does look like the reason we haven't seen her is that they have been redoing her entire communication style. They had to have gotten some type of diction coach or someone to help with word salad. I think she's undergone speech therapy. I think there's been a complete reboot from the ground up in terms of body language, everything. They have the resources to rebuild her. No one ever does it in politics because it's a huge amount of work and you have to go off the campaign trail, and that did not used to be acceptable. But that's what they've done. They rebuilt her. And it reminds me very much of how Obama, after that debate with Romney, came out and was a new person. That's what they did then, and I think that's the model they used for this.
Yeah, but you saw what happened to Romney, though, Magdalene. He lost by 30 points to Obama. And this crap that she's being prepped by Obama, folks, ultimately, it don't matter who she was prepped with. See, we're asking the wrong. This is the American public for you. We're asking the wrong questions tonight. It doesn't ultimately matter. What matters is what's going to happen after. And that's my question to you, young lady. Where do you think this leads both campaigns? Do you think she gets a huge boost from this, or is this just going to be one of those things we'll forget about in a few weeks? And that she's still going to have to defend her record? Because to my knowledge, are there any other debates? I don't think they're supposed to debate anymore, are they?
No, there's nothing else settled yet, and we even saw that comment by one of the hosts that this might be the one and only debate. I think that the takeaway from this is that Donald Trump's campaign does not understand that Kamala Harris wants to be president. They're treating her like someone who just appeared. She took that vice presidential position knowing full well there was a huge chance she would end up as the major nominee, the major ticket part of the nominee. So they treat her as if she's a slide and a substitute. She's always, in some ways, been the main ticket because she's been prepped. We've never dismissed the idea that she would become the head of the ticket. You and I have never sat there and gone, well, will J.D. Vance become the head of the ticket? Well, we've done it with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So that's the difference here. They have to wake up. They have to realize that this is the issue. And yes, we are a few months out from the election. But the flip side of that is this will now dominate sort of the last boost for one or another of the candidates. The convention, you come out with a bump for both candidates. I think that the convention for Trump, even though his speech was a little long-winded, was very good. Right on the heels of him almost being assassinated, that was the peak for him. This debate, if this is the only one, was the only opportunity to have a national bump. And it's going to go to Kamala Harris. And that's going to be a hole they're going to have to dig themselves out of. She has figured out how to speak to moderate Republicans. That's dangerous for us. I'd love to know who taught her that, because whoever is on that team of people, they are political geniuses, because she's been completely rebuilt.
Well, I'm going to throw a name out there, Liz Cheney, maybe, and I hate to say it, Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley was on the talk shows this weekend basically telling Trump stop calling her dumb. Now, I have to say, I agree with Nikki to a degree. This name-calling stuff, Magdalene, is childish. And I love President Trump. I do. I'm going to vote for him. But this idea that we think these candidates are dumb, Kamala Harris is dumb. They're not dumb. They've never been dumb. They're evil, and they're wicked, and they want to destroy this country. But they're not dumb. And J.D. Vance, the same thing. And I know that there are ladies out here in the audience, and Nikki Haley's point was that Trump may not even mean it this way, but it goes back to optics. Optics for everything. James R. was on our program last night. The last thing James R. said before we signed off, he said optics tomorrow night are going to be everything, and James R. turned out to be a prophet because optics tonight are not good for President Trump. They're not good.
They're not.
And we can't shake that. And I see some folks putting it in about his ego and all getting the better of him. I don't know about that, but I will ask you a question. Why do you think, and this is an opinion question, kid, why do you think he didn't bring up the assassination or these main policies? What paralyzed him tonight? It was like almost from what I'm hearing, he was paralyzed at times.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a strategy, because if there's no strategy in which not bringing up almost being assassinated makes sense politically, it's just not a thing. So it's not a political strategy. I think he was caught off guard by her ability. And I had started to wonder why they were keeping her so locked in. And if you notice, whenever we saw her, and you and I spoke about this over the last couple of weeks, she would be at some fun event. She would be at a record store. She would be getting ice cream. And every time I saw her, she never stumbled in a statement. I mean, maybe there was a video of her doing so, but I didn't see it. I think she went in thinking he was debating the Kamala Harris of the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. And instead, he got a completely rebuilt person. And if you think back to the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, that was her standout moment. That was the moment where a lot of us were introduced to her. I was really introduced to her
Good point.
as a political figure. And she's a mess. She was mean. She was unlikable. She was horrible. Everyone disliked her from that, except Democrats who thought she was a feminist rally cry. But this Kamala Harris is a gun owner who has no word salad and all of it's fine. And she's going to stand for moderate Republicans getting respected. And if you notice, she slipped in this comment that Pete Buttigieg first started bringing into politics of you can be a faithful Christian and you can vote for abortion because it's the kind thing to do. This kind of language, you don't have to abandon your faith. So I would bet that Pete Buttigieg has had a great hand in the rebuilding of Kamala Harris. And what's scary is this isn't a brand rebuilding. This is a rebuilding of her. So she's such an empty vessel that that's possible. I think Donald Trump was completely caught off guard, and I think it's his team of people. And you and I have spoken about this for years. He cannot hire good people.
No.
It's a mess.
I know.
He just can't do it.
That's his biggest
And
downfall.
this is what we've got.
That's his biggest
and this
downfall.
is what we've got.
It is. And again, I'm not wanting to jump on the pile of Monday morning quarterbacking. I wasn't up there in that debate stage tonight. It was his call. It was his doing. And I'm still going to vote for him. And I don't think anybody that was going to vote for him before this debate is not going to vote for him after. And I think that's the key, too. I don't think it moved the needle, Magdalene, for anybody to go the other way. And I don't think there's anybody that was not going to vote for Kamala Harris that's going to go out there and say, well, okay, she's all right to vote for her. Now, I don't think she did herself any favors. Now, the debate, if you just say who won the debate tonight, well, hell, you won the debate, so what? All right, give her a participation trophy and, take it and shove it up her backside. I don't care. But I think now, I do believe this, and I'll get your opinion about this. I think the Tim Walz and J.D. Vance debate now becomes very, very important. Because if J.D. Vance don't hold them two to the fire, then I believe we got a problem with the ticket that they're going to face an issue. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. I think that's very true. I fear that J.D. Vance is going to do this thing that he does when he gets nervous, where he sort of laughs and dismisses. He makes this dismissive hand motion. He's not somebody who I think is particularly ready for prime time. I've never understood the appeal of J.D. Vance, aside from his policies, many of which I agree with. I don't think he's captivating. I don't even think he's particularly interesting. And I don't think he's particularly solid when it comes to media training. And that has been something that I've always held the position of, even when he was running for Senate in Ohio. So in a lot of ways, he's a weak choice. He didn't really deliver anything for anybody. So if he fails at that debate, we're in trouble. And I will tell you, just right after this debate, Taylor Swift put out a post endorsing Kamala Harris for president on Instagram. And this matters, I will tell you, because there's not a more beloved, followed woman in America, amongst young people, particularly young women. But this is the important point about this. At the bottom of the endorsement on Instagram, she signed it, childless cat lady. What she posted was a photo of her with one of her cats. And that is a comment directly aimed at J.D. Vance. So I would bet now that the Kamala Harris team transitions from attacking just Donald Trump to attacking J.D. Vance as well. Because that line about childless cat ladies, it was just so stupid. It was so stupid because it doesn't serve you at all. So I think if J.D. Vance does not win that debate, and he has to win it. No draws, nothing. He's got to win it like Pence won the debate against Tim Kaine in 2016. Unless he wins that, he will have been a completely useless VP pick. And I still don't understand, with Tim Scott sitting right there and the governor of Virginia, who would have been an amazing choice in Glenn Youngkin, why we went with J.D. Vance from a state that Trump's already going to win. But if Vance doesn't win this debate, he was probably the stone around Trump's neck for this election.
Well, I'll agree with that to a degree, but I'm not going to lay it on J.D. I'm going to lay that on Trump. It was Trump's choice.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
yeah,
and JD I think, has handled himself fairly well, Magdalene. I do. I mean, I'm not saying he's been perfect out there, but again, look, I think we both can agree on this. The media is not going to give either one a fair shake. No. They were not going to give Trump a fair shake tonight, and we shouldn't have expected, and the comments about, well, they fact-checked her and not Trump. Of course they didn't fact-check her. They're never going to fact-check Kamala Harris. I mean, she was lying through her teeth, and I mean, it's frustrating. That's why Chris didn't watch it. That's why I pay you the big bucks to sit up and watch this crap, and you come on here and tell me what they said, okay? Any final thoughts, kid, before I go on? I got to get James Akers on here.
I just think that if this is the Trump we're going to see on the campaign trail, that's a problem. And my main thought is this. If Donald Trump does not get rid of these people who don't go outside to learn about the place that they're trying to win, being the United States, if he does not swap them out for real campaigners, specifically someone like Glenn Youngkin to be a senior advisor, we will be in trouble. I don't want to be sitting here on election night and say to you, it was the people he hired, like you and I did in 2022 in the midterms. I don't want that to happen. The team will be Trump's win or his downfall. It's up to him to critically look at the people around him. And I think a lot of blame should be placed on the Chris Christie's shoulders because he was willing to play ball and talk to the Kamala Harris team, and he was Trump's former debate coach. So Chris Christie has done a great disservice to this country tonight.
So he was coaching Kamala?
He was involved with her campaign. He was willing to talk to them. He was giving them tips. He is one of the people who, if Trump loses this election, Western civilization in the history books, there should be a little blurb that says Chris Christie helped cause this because he was working with her to prep her for tonight.
That is sick. But again, he's not the only one. Pence out there this week betraying Trump, and Liz Cheney and all this Cheney. I mean, hell, her daddy is out there with white dudes for Kamala now. Bush Jr. had at least some sense. He wasn't going to endorse her, but he didn't endorse Trump either. Do you think those things matter in the long run?
Oh, there's this group of Republicans who I don't really understand what they're doing. But for them, they matter. These sort of like rhino-ish Republicans, most of them live in Arizona now, for which this matters. And I think that those things do hold some weight. However, I don't think the Dick Cheney endorsement holds any weight. I don't think he really has a fan base outside of a strange group of war hawk Republicans led by Dana Perino. Aside from that, I don't really see how he helps anybody.
Does Perino like Cheney?
Oh, yeah. She comes from that whole Bush. She was the White House press secretary for the Bush term. So I think that sort of group likes Dick Cheney. But aside from that, I don't see how it helps. And this John McCain thing. John McCain hated Donald Trump. We all know why he voted not to repeal Obamacare. It wasn't out of great selflessness. It was just because he hated Trump. Trump would have been better off saying, John McCain only did that because he hated me. It's just personal. But instead, he got in a strange conversation. Overall, I think Trump left too much meat on the table, and Kamala Harris has been completely rebooted to a professional level.
That don't bode well for the country, Mag.
Nope.
That don't bode well, and I got a lot to say about that later. All right, buddy. Listen, I'm going to get you back on next week.
Yep.
Hang loose, and we're moving toward November quickly. What do you think? How did she play with your age group tonight, you think?
I think she did well. Like, I don't see any issue. And when Trump talked about I will say this, Trump has learned how to try to pivot in the debate, which was very evident when he tried to move off abortion onto student debt. One thing, though, that was a problem for her was that she did not have an answer for student loan debt. Trump brought up that they were defeated at the Supreme Court. They were defeated on a legislative level. She had no answer for that. So if there's a gap in her performance, this is it. The fact that she could not help deliver for student loan debt forgiveness. And I was speaking to somebody tonight who said, I have student loans and I get a letter every couple of weeks changing whether or not I have to pay them now or later or whatnot based off of the failures of this administration. Trump needs to talk about that because that was her weak spot tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's water under the bridge now. It's done. And he's going to be chewed and spit out more by the media. And he better, and again, they need, if Kamala's regrouped, he's got to regroup too, Magdalene. Mm-hmm. He's got to. And, I think that she's going to run and hide now for the next 50 basic days because we got 50 basically days till election. It's helping her. This is the most public thing that she had to say tonight, and there was still no policy. I mean, there was very little policy stuff tonight. It was all personality and jabbing, and she succeeded in doing what she set out to do, it seems. All right, buddy. Listen, get some rest. I love you, and I appreciate you, and I will talk to you next week, okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Have a good night, dear. Bye, Mag. Magdalene Rose, everybody. Great kid right there, and I always love getting her insight, and I think there is anyway, let's see if we got Mr. James Akers on the line, and I'm sure he's up and at him tonight. There he is right there. Mr. Akers, how are you, sir?
I am doing fine. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I hope I'm not keeping you out of your bedtime. I know it's late. Now, Johnson has been in bed since 8 o'clock tonight. I didn't bother trying to call him this hour. I knew you'd be up, so that's why, you're on the phone with me here at 11:45.
Yeah, I'm watching the post-mortem of the debate here.
Post-mortem.
So everybody's claiming victory, and so Trump was just on saying that he clearly won the debate. I don't know, Chris.
I don't think he won the debate, James. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch it, but I had Magdalene Rose on before you, and you and her are going to be on my panel. Y'all will get to meet each other. She'll be on our panel election night, and we're going to have a panel into the night watching these returns come in. But, James, I'm going to be honest with you. You and I were texting before we came on, and I agree with what you were saying. It was not Trump's finest hour tonight, and Magdalene is a young lady. She's in her 20s, and she just laid it on the table. And look, people, and I know how people are out, and I'm seeing in the chat already, everybody wants to defend Trump, and that's fine. I mean, he had a bad night. And in politics, you're going to have bad nights, and this was not his most shining night. But I will say this, his people that prepared him, and Magdalene and I are in agreement with this, and I'll get your thoughts on this, he was not prepared for the onslaught that hit him tonight by ABC and Kamala Harris, because they had his lunch at times, and they fed it to him at times very good, and he took the bait and went down the wrong road with this. Did he not?
He did. He took the bait, and in 2 or 3 areas where he doesn't have a winning hand, and he just should have avoided all of that stuff. But I'm watching Fox, and they had several people on complaining about it was 1 on 3 and this, that, and the other. I was really disappointed in David Muir. I mean, he did not have even the pretense of neutrality in this thing.
Of course not. Of course not.
And that's sort of disappointing. So she got away with platitudes, memorized sorts of facts, and then they never never nailed her, and they were most anxious to nail Trump on absolutely everything. And of course, I was a one-sided observer. I was hoping that he would do well, that she would fall flat on her face, and I'll just be honest with you, that did not happen.
No, it didn't, and I'm with you, buddy. But I think there was a feeling I had today. I had this feeling last night, and I know I was hesitant to say it on air. I did not think Trump should have done this debate with her. I felt like that the cards were stacked. So she refused to come on Fox to debate him. I felt like at that moment he should have turned to her and said, "Well, I tell you what, I'm not gonna debate you on ABC." I mean, he should have known. And if he's going to go out there and claim that he did well tonight, then his ego is beginning to take over again, James, and that does not bode well for him, because his ego gets in the way sometimes of his brains. And I love President Trump. I'm not a big fan of the people around him, but I believe in him. I believe in his vision for the country. I believe he's got, of the two candidates, he's going to keep us out of some wars. He's going to keep us at least safe as we can. He's going to close this border. He's going to help us get these gas prices down, these grocery prices down. But this personal ego of his, that he this name calling, this childish behavior that he does, he's got to stop it if he's going to want to be elected president. And I saw something tonight, and watching, listening to comments, and just glancing at a few clips that's out there. The old Trump emerged tonight that got him in trouble in 2020, just a little bit. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. His own worst enemy is his own hubris,
Yeah.
He, to your point, as to the wisdom of accepting this debate, he believes that by the power of his own personality that he could sway and get an even shake from all of these people in the media that are out to just crucify the guy, and time after time he just walks into these traps, and it showed up big time tonight. Do
you think there was a reason? And Magdalene brought this out. That kid's smart beyond her years. I really am proud of her. She's my goddaughter, and I could hug her when she comes on this network, because she sees things that I would have never noticed. But she mentioned that he did not bring up the assassination attempt at all, hardly at all tonight. He barely mentioned the border. There was a very little policy discussion. And again, the moderators didn't help because of the way they asked questions, because of the way they again would give him gotcha questions to start going into a playground mud fight with her. And I know he's trying hard not to bite. And it was I'm not trying to money more than a quarterback here, because I wouldn't have been. I wasn't up there on that stage. Chris may have been worse. I may have. James Akers may have disowned me watching my performance up there. Had that been me on that stage, because Chris might have turned the air blue talking to this bunch. But my question to you is: was there anything that he didn't say tonight that he should have said that, in your opinion, may have hurt him more than even what he did say?
Well, I thought he made a couple mistakes. Number one, he pounded the border thing, and I thought a little bit too much. What he should have done, since it was obvious in the first 10 minutes that the moderators were not going to drill down on her record and what she has said in the past, that was never brought up. She got a free pass on all of that stuff. In his closing statement, he hit it one time, and he hit it hard, and I'm not sure how much of an effect it had. But here this woman has been in power with Biden for now over 3 years. Why hasn't she instituted all these things while she's been in office that she's running on now? She's running away from her earlier record. And he did not pin her down on that, and I think that was a mistake. That's her biggest vulnerability. He did have a great line. I don't think it carried the debate for him, but he had a great line. He said, you know, she's adopting so many of my ideas these days that I was thinking about sending her a MAGA hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a great line.
Yeah, it is. But James, again, do you think that these debates, let me ask you a bigger picture question. Do you think these debates ultimately hold that much water? Because I look back on debates of the past. I wasn't born. You'd have seen this one. My first debate that I ever really watched was Carter Reagan. I had to write a term paper on the 1980 election. Chris got an A+ for that. Great U.S. history term paper. First one I ever had to write in high school. But my question to you, there have been debate failures in the past. Reagan had a debate failure against Mondale, if you remember. It didn't affect him. Obama's first debate with Romney was horrible. And he came back and trounced Romney in the election. I'm thinking of Sarah Palin. I mean, she came out there with fire blazing that night. Then she stepped out on that RNC stage with McCain, and the media ate her alive, and people started turning on her, and McCain got toasted by Obama in 2008. Bush Jr.'s first debate with Kerry in 2004. I worked at a Christian bookstore that night, and we sat around the lobby or the break room and watched that debate. And there were folks in that debate that were concerned John Kerry was going to win the election because of Bush's performance, and that didn't bode well for Kerry later. But the difference tonight is that there are no other chances for Trump now because she's not going to debate him anymore. I don't think she's going to get in that ring with him no more because she's got her flesh now. She's got her piece of flesh, and she's going to run for the hills. And tonight was his night to shine, James. And do you think that this is going to be where people will forget this debate in 2 months, or do you think this is going to carry over into November?
You know, I view this through a historical lens. There's a perception that debates are more important than they actually are. And that came from the first debate then, and this gives you an idea how old I am. The first debate I watched was the Nixon-Kennedy debate.
I mentioned that before. Go ahead.
And that debate did swing, I think, an election. Because Nixon just looked so bad, you know, and Kennedy looked so good that sort of camera appeal carried the day for Kennedy, I think. And there grew out of that the perception that these debates are really important in shaping public opinion. I don't think they are.
I don't either.
I'm not sure the needle moved an iota tonight. The Trump people are saying, except for Brett Hume. I really like Brett Hume. And Brett Hume said, you know, we're going to hear a lot of, especially on this station, you know, this, that, and the other. He said, but I'm telling you, she won that debate.
Well, she may have, James. She may have won tonight. But the question is, will it matter? Will it matter in November? And I'll go back to Nixon Kennedy. There's a lot of people that said, in historical terms, that had you listened to the debate on radio and not seen it, Nixon won that debate. And I guess it's all about perspective, and I think I see it happening already tonight a little bit, that the right is going to claim victory for Trump, the left is going to claim victory for Harris. And I don't think, again, that it moved any votes away from one candidate to the other. I think that Magdalene made a great point. She rebranded herself tonight, and he gave her that opportunity to do it, which that, to me, that's like, that was the one thing that he could not do, is let her get away from her persona of not knowing what she's doing. Because, I mean, she's cut and pasting Biden policies on her website. She has not done an interview in 50 days. Now, there may be I've got to ask you this question. This could be reverse psychology on Trump's part. to let her get overconfident, thinking that she's now can talk and can control the media. And maybe she goes out there now and starts doing these interviews, and all of a sudden people see the real Kamala Harris come out. Because, James, she can't keep lying till November. I don't think she can. Eventually, she's going to slip up and tell people what she's really going to do and govern, because, see, that's the thing. What she's telling people how she feels is a complete lie as compared to her past positions of what she will do if she gets elected president. I'm telling you, this woman and Tim Walz are closet communists. They are going to bring a communist-type totalitarian reign to America like we've never seen before in the history of this country if they're elected.
I agree with that absolutely, and that's why, it was so disappointing to me that, they didn't even have the pretense of fairness. But now I will tell you, in where optics matter, she, the whole night, spoke directly to the camera and to the people, whereas he was constantly focused on the moderators.
And that was a mistake. That was a mistake.
A huge mistake. She had been well coached on that. And so, this is going to be a very close election. And so those small things like optics matter. So I'll make that point number one. Number two, there is no reason whatsoever for her to change her strategy. She was vice president for a presidential candidate that never got out of the basement and won an election. And she is following the exact same playbook. And she thinks she can win using that strategy. And we'll see here in 90 days, we'll see whether that strategy pays off or not. So, there's no reason for her to volunteer to put herself into her greatest vulnerability. She got by tonight with a few memorized lines. She never had to think on her feet. She never responded to a tough question. The very first one, are you better off, or are the people better off? She never even answered the question. Mm-hmm. And when the young lady that was the moderator asked her about several specific incidents in which she flip-flopped, she never answered the question. And so, she has made a good living, and has climbed up the ladder and has circumvented the system by not being candid and truthful, in informal settings. She's not going to do that. This strategy, I think her handlers are convinced this strategy is going to win the election for her, just like Biden's strategy of staying in the basement, won the election, won that last presidential election for him. And then tonight you had Trump. Are you still there? My phone's running out of oomph. I'm gonna have to plug it in here, Chris.
Yeah, I'm still here. You're fine.
Okay.
Well, and listen, I'll go ahead. I'll agree with what you're saying, and I think the question I have for you: do you think that they're going to swear her into presidency before November? I mean, do you think that this elevates her? Because I think, James, of everything, and I'm just not going to name the lady out there, but the person that says this is a depressing post report. You might want to rethink the depressing post report being depressing. It's reality. What's going on? This is what got us in trouble in 2020. This la land that everything's fine, and then we get our backside handed to us because we didn't understand the evil that was behind what was going on in 2020 no more than I think we understand the evil that's going on behind this thing tonight. I hope this may be a wake-up call. I think there's some positive things we can take out of this, James. I hope this shakes the MAGA community up tonight. I do. I hope it wakes the blank up. These people that are in this law fog land that thinks that Trump's just going to waltz into this thing and he's going to be fairy dust. There's going to be fairy dust spread over America, and everybody's going to just fall down and go vote for Trump. I hope this is a wake-up call finally, that maybe we've got some sense in our head that we just may have to go out there and fight for our country. And and I hate to be so tough on a late night Tuesday now, Wednesday morning, but I think there's some wisdom in there. Is there not?
Yeah, no, I think you're on to something there. You know, I like to view things through spiritual optics. And I think what we are stumbling into, and I mean, Harris made several points appealing to women and, you know, her policies with all of that. We are stumbling into a Jezebel spirit.
Absolutely.
And the way that Jezebel spirit was turned back before, when Hillary ran, was the prayers of the saints. I do not see that same urgency among my Christian friends when it comes to this election.
But I'm with you. I ain't either.
I need to send you this just wonderful sermon. We used to attend this church in Northern Virginia, and he had his election message, and he didn't sugarcoat things with Trump or anything else, but he did say there are on the order of I may get these figures a little bit wrong, on the order of 50 million Christians, evangelical Christians. 15 million of those, well, there are more than that. There's 40 million evangelical Christians didn't vote the last time around. 15 million of them aren't even registered to vote.
And some of them voted for Biden, James. Some of the evangelicals voted for Biden himself.
Yes. And here, you know, all you have to do is compare the two platforms, and one is openly a platform of death and anti-Christian, and yet you will have numbers of Christians that will vote for Kamala Harris, probably a good percentage of them because she isn't Trump. There's such a, you know, just a strong anti-Trump element. That's one of the factors that has to be counted in this election this time.
Do you, I did not know this, Magdalene said something tonight, and I was not aware of this, but Chris Christie evidently was coaching Kamala Harris behind the scenes. Have you heard anything about that?
No, it wouldn't surprise me. Chris Christie hates Trump, you know, and that's the problem. You have Harris was proud and trumpeted the fact that all of these neocons and Dick Cheney and all of them under the Bush years, you know, are supporting her, and there is just such a strong anti-Trump spirit that, you know, I mean, if I talk to my friends 3 minutes, I can, you know, you can sense the drift of that one. So,
do you what's your take on where we are at? It's actually 60 days, but where does this take us 60 days from now? Is all this forgotten in a week, and we move on to November? And did we still come down to the vote, or do you think this has any lasting effects on either campaign?
Well, I misspoke a while ago. I said 90 days, and you're right, it's 60 days. Closer to 60, I guess. But I think that this goes away within a week. And I think there will be a couple other issues that'll come central stage. Kamala Harris made just a big deal tonight about how favorable she is to Israel. That's a
joke. That's a joke.
That's a blatant lie, and that she would always, but that they have to respect international rules and this that. It's she put a really important qualifier with it, and so right here they're showing on Fox that Harris's people are saying they're asking for a second debate. So that'll be interesting to see how that.
Well,
how that
Fox
comes
was
out.
wanting to do it, but Trump does not need to give her a platform like he gave her tonight, James. He does not need to do this. I look at this as Romans 8:28. All this is working together for the good. I'm a little disappointed in Trump. I'm not thinking that everything is lost tonight. But it's not something that everybody should be that shocked about what happened, because, I mean, this is politics, and politics is a nasty business. And I can tell you, tonight is part of what you have to deal with politics. But you gotta, if you're going to play the game, I just wish Trump would have been better prepared. I got an interesting comment. I want to run this by you. Tulsi Gabbard was out there saying that her and there was a few others that were prepping Trump for the debate, and the individual that is commenting is saying they're not so sure that she didn't set Trump up for failure by prepping him, because Magdalene made a great point earlier about that being on social media and posting funny memes and posting these little jabs is okay, because that gets you a lot of social media likes. You get on a national stage, you can't be jabbing like that. You've got to stay policy, and you got to be structured. You have got to stay on target, stay on focus, and you got to stop with the childish name calling, because James, that does not play well to the national audience. Whereas on Twitter, you're really preaching to the choir, because you're only speaking to your little clique anyway. When you get down to it on X and True Social, especially on True Social, because that's Trump's thing. And I think that's a well point. Do you think Tulsi Gabbard helped him at all? I think she didn't do a whole lot. Of me and James are last night. We're not fans of Tulsi Gabbard. I don't trust Tulsi past this freaking screen. What's your thoughts on that, real quick?
On that, we were going to have to respectfully disagree. I liked Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay.
And I could not buy into any narrative that somehow she deliberately set up Trump for failure. Trump's failures tonight were of his own making. He allowed her to bait him into the old Donald Trump, and he took it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Well, and I think she told him to stay to policy. And I mean, I'm not blaming Tulsi for this at all. And Roger, we're not doom and glooming tonight. We're just giving you pretty much a general perspective of what we saw and what we've heard. And I think the consensus is that this was not Trump's best night. I'm not saying that it's the end of the world or Armageddon, but Trump just he didn't have a good night. And if that's doom and gloom, that's just doom and gloom. But it's not doom and gloom. It's just a reality of what it is. But I will tell you this, James, I said this to Magdalene. J.D. Vance's his debate now with Tim Walz becomes a million times more important than it would have had Trump cleaned the floor with her tonight. And this is the thing about the populace that drives me insane. And Roger, this ain't directed at you, but it's just people in general. It's like all of Trump's camp is cheerleading for Trump, and Trump can do no wrong. And you can't say nothing to Trump's camp to say, hey, he had a rough night. He needs to tighten his game up. He needs to get better at what he's doing. He needs to be more focused, without them thinking that you're the Antichrist because you're trying to help President Trump and encourage him that you've got to stay focused. And then you've got the left over here. You've got people that are in Kamala's camp that all of a sudden anything negative you say about her, they're going to believe she won tonight. And there's nothing you could convince them to know that she had her weak moments too, and that there was a lot left on the table for her to be desired, because we got this divided country, James, And that is what's more concerning to me tonight than this stupid debate. Because at the end of the day, the stupid debate doesn't mean a hill of beans. We're just talking about it tonight. It gives me a chance to come on here and run my mouth late. But ultimately, in the scope of things, I don't think this debate's going to matter a whole blanking lot when you get down to the voting in November. That's my opinion. What's James Akers' opinion on that?
No, like I said a little bit ago, Chris, I agree with you. I do not think that this moved the needle one iota. The same people that Trump can do no wrong thought he won it going away, and they can't see how anybody else could see it any differently. On the left, they thought that she won the day. And it goes back, and the last time we were talking, this came up. Politics has turned into a 50-50 proposition in this country. Michelle Bachmann, I watched her appearance at one of the debates, one of the primary debates afterwards. She said, and I think she's absolutely right, it has become such a zero-sum game, that the stakes are so high in a 50-50 country that these elections matter, and there's no moderate middle ground whatsoever, and it drives all of these people to the extremes.
That's right. That's right, James.
Because that's where their strongest and loudest support is, but it's killing the country. It's killing the country. There's no way that Donald Trump could come on and say, there is one area where this administration did well, and vice versa. There is not one area where Kamala Harris can say, even though she's adopting all of Trump's policies, and they kept the tariffs on and several things like that, there's no way in this politicized environment we're in where anybody's going to admit the other side has any worthwhile idea at all.
That's an excellent analysis, buddy, and that is where we're at. I think that you said it, summed it up right there. We could go home tonight, and that sums it up, because you're right. There is no middle ground. And if Trump would have looked into the camera tonight and said, I agree with something that Joe Biden did in 4 years, in which, maybe we'd have had to stretch the truth a little bit. Anything Joe Biden has done good these last 4 years. But let's just say if he did, that would have not flown with his base. And then for Kamala Harris to admit that, hey, the border wall did work and we need to reinstitute the border wall. Trump was right in that. To say that instead of lying about their record that they've tried to stop, she couldn't have done that because her base would have forsaken her. And that's the toxicity of our government. That's the toxicity of our society. That's the toxicity of our politics. And again, I see Cleo's comment about Trump doing this to himself. Trump has nobody to look into about this tonight except himself, and that is absolutely correct. And I understand the comment about Tulsi. I guess some of this. I just know some things from the Hawaiian people when she was down there that she was behind. I do believe that going forward, Trump, if you're Trump, in your opinion, James, would you take her up on that debate offer tonight?
Well, he told Sean Hannity a while ago, he appeared on his program and said he would have to think about it. But here's the hubris that comes out. He says, the only reason they want a second debate is because I won this evening's debate so clearly and decisively. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to have another debate. Do you think
that's what the Harris people believe?
Watching the debate tonight, I don't see how they can possibly believe that. I just that whole offer just to me just flies in the face of political common sense. if she won the debate, which I think she probably did, then why would she, risk it again on a more? She couldn't ask for a more positive circumstances with the moderators she had, who just gave her fluffball questions, failed to nail her down on anything. She's not going to get that the next time around. It has to be more neutral. So I cannot understand the logic of asking for a second debate.
Yeah. Jason Miller, I got a couple of funny comments, and I'll let you go, but I know it's late. Thank you for staying up with me tonight. Jason says, a Democrat. I'm getting you prepared for the first Tuesday night in November, Akers. You better get your milk and cookies, and I'll even get. I'll play my music. Put my CD on to keep you awake on election night, because we'll be up watching these returns. Jason Miller says a Democrat 50 years ago would be called a right-wing extremist today, and that's exactly right. Eddie Gilbert has got the line of the night. He says, at least we don't eat cats and dogs in South Carolina. Way to go, Eddie.
And then Trump, I think, stayed on that line a little bit too long.
Exactly. And I mean, there was just some things that, again, James, the bottom line tonight, bud, is we've wrapped this up with you, and then we're going to, folks, hang around with me. We're going to stay here for another 30 minutes, take your questions and thoughts. But the thing is tonight, the people of America are hurting, James, financially. The morale's down, our foreign policy's in shambles. We are being overrun with an invasion. The real problems were not hashed out tonight between the two candidates as to how they fix them. This was a circus. I mean, at the end of the day, this was nothing but a circus. That's why I believe that ultimately it's not going to even matter what happened tonight. And I'm with you. As I sit here and thought about why the Harris campaign would want them to debate again, if I was Kamala Harris tonight, I'd run for the hills. I wouldn't even get in front of a camera. She don't have to.
I would declare victory and just say, no way. I beat you once. But, Chris, there's another thought I have. To me, the critical issue of this campaign is the issue of life.
Amen, buddy.
We are turning into a death culture, and all you have to do is watch TV and streaming channels or whatever, and it just becomes really obvious, and it's one of the party platforms. And what concerns me is now that Trump is sort of walking away from that. He danced around the poll tonight. And
James, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. I'm glad you said that, because I feel like the very issue that he won on in 2016 is going to be the issue he's going to lose on in this election if he don't firm his stance up. Look, I don't care if he thinks he's being politically correct to go to the center. That's up to him. I mean, I've had pro-life people on my show, and they understand why he's doing it. They don't agree with it. But, we were talking about the spiritual aspect of this, and Ellen Prentice has been making some good comments tonight about the fervency, and she agrees with your sentiment that the fervency of prayer is just not there like it was before. And I think people have got this la-la land attitude that, again, pixie dust is going to fall on the country, and people are just going to fall in love with Donald Trump all of a sudden in 2024 and run to the polls and vote because things are so bad. But James, look, I think this life issue is the most important. I took a poll last night. It was really weird. I asked people, I said, what is the one issue that you feel like that needs to be discussed tonight in tonight's debate, or what's the biggest issue to you for the election? And we had about 250 people, 300 in the House if you had all the networks together. And I saw the answers on YouTube and Facebook. And out of all the answers, I got one abortion. That's it. One comment on abortion was it. And the weird thing about that is that that is the issue that the Democrats say are their most important issue. When you poll Democrats and then you ask them what is the most important thing that's driving you to the polls in November, abortion's it for them. But we don't. There's a lot of people that don't see that as an issue. It's a huge issue to me. That is an issue of life. And if we get this wrong, James, God's going to hold us so accountable as a nation. I'm telling you, this is going to be, if America goes down, and I'm holding out hope that we don't. I hope we don't. But this issue of this bloodletting of these babies, James, is going to be a noose, a yoke, a bondage, a darkness, a sentence of death that's going to come back on this nation if we don't get this right. And we're not making any effort on either side of the aisle to get it right. Are we?
No, I agree with you. Life is the issue. And everything else just nibbles at the edge of everything else. We would do a whole lot better in the Christian community if we would take Jesus Christ at His word. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I'm telling you, society now is trying to challenge that claim on all three levels. And life is just so critical in the issue of life. And we have people running away from it or trying to disguise it, a deeply moral issue of life as a political issue, and it gives them cover for not defending life. And that's the issue, Chris. That is the spiritual issue. And that is what we're going to be. I couldn't agree with you more. That's what we are going to be judged for as a culture.
Well, I'll tell you what, James, it's what brought Israel. I've been reading Jeremiah, and it's been in my devotional time. I'm in that book right now, and I tell you what, I've been in tears over the last 2 or 3 weeks. The language that God used to that nation that had delved into this very thing of baby killing and debauchery, and the horror of Jeremiah's day was that Israel was still worshiping God in His temple and holding on to these evil, wicked sins of baby killing, idol worship, perversion, fornication, adultery, corruption in government. I mean, they were oppressing the poor, oppressing the needy. Children were being slaughtered. And yet they were still worshiping in the temple, holding on to God with one hand and doing these things and supporting these other things with another. And the language that God uses is chilling to that nation. It was to them, and it was before the Babylonians would come and basically take Israel away for 70 years. And I'm wondering if Jeremiah was here tonight, what he would say to this country. And I think he would say the very same thing. His words of then, 2,700 years ago, 2,500 years ago now, is exactly what God's trying to say to this nation, because I think we're on the precipice of a Babylonian type oppressor if we don't get this right. And our sin is far worse than Israel's of that day. We got greater light, James. We got greater light, man. We know better. We got both the word. The Israelis, the Israelites of the old, all they had was the Torah. All they had was the old covenant. They had the Psalms and they had Moses. We got it all. We got the new covenant. We've got the revelation of Christ. He's come. And we've got the full revelation of God in His Word. And yet we still do what we do against light. And it's a principle of the spiritual realm that is not one that bodes well for any nation that sins against light like this one has.
Yeah, it's the ultimate spiritual hypocrisy.
Yes.
You have churches that will not defend life, and judgment starts in the house of God, and the failure in our churches to defend that which is most sacred to God. And I'm with you. We are inviting judgment.
Yeah. But I appreciate you being with me tonight. And listen, hang loose. I haven't had a chance to talk to you. I'll see you a week from Thursday, by the way. And we're going to be in Ohio Friday and Saturday. Hope y'all can make it up to Dalton. And but I'll see you next week. And but we're going to start getting you on at least once a week. You're going to become a McFile regular. And I always enjoy your conversations with us. You always bring a lot of good insight. And it was good to hear a voice of reason tonight, and I think that you and Magdalene both did great, but I appreciate you coming on this late hour, and I really thank you for staying up with me. I do, more than you'll ever know.
It's always an honor, Chris. I want you to know that. Looking forward to us catching the ball game here in a few days.
Absolutely. Next week, man. I'll see you then. Be safe. God bless, friend.
Okay.
You too, James.
Blessings.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Good night. James Akers, everybody, put some fire in that house. I could sit there and talk to him for 6 hours, but it's 12:30 and I gotta get in bed. Anyway, let's see what we got going on in the chat with you tonight. Jason, your question about can you be a Christian and a Democrat at the same time? That is sort of it's an oxymoron. I think that you can't support the Democrat platform and then say you're a Christian. No, I don't. But, Jason, there's a lot of things on the Republican platform that I don't agree with either. I don't think it has anything to do with party affiliation. I think it's whether you support godliness. But I will say this, Jason, to support a Democrat candidate and cast a vote for them, you're casting a vote for that platform. I mean, you just are. And, I mean, people have a hard time reconciling with that. They think that, well, I don't have to agree with the platform, but I can vote Democrat. No, you're voting for the platform. If you put your vote for a Democrat candidate, you're putting your vote and you're putting your stamp of approval on the death sentence that they put on babies in their platform. They literally call for abortion up to the 9th month and beyond. And, look, we're not here to judge anybody, but you can't help but ask the question, how can a person of Christian character that say they're a Christian, that say, and a Christian is supposed to have at least moral clarity of right and wrong, and if you can't see that as being wrong, then there's something wrong with your Christianity. I'll put it like this, Jason, it ain't even a question of Christian or you're a Christian. Question is better asked, do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? That's probably a better way to ask that. We were talking about this very thing. We've been talking about this very thing in the morning Bible studies about this coming kingdom age, of how things are going to be a lot different when Christ comes back to this earth as they are tonight. There ain't going to be any abortion in the millennial. There won't be no pro-life, pro-choice marches. There won't be any Planned Parenthood clinics in the millennial kingdom. And there won't be no parties that support abortion in the millennial. There won't be any of this crap that's going on tonight. No. There won't be corrupt politicians running for office in the millennial. The Christian, the believer in Jesus, the one that knows Christ, will be ruling and reigning with Christ. They will have glorified bodies. Justice will finally come to this earth as it has been promised for millennial, that it's coming. Because the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords is going to be ruling and reigning from Jerusalem, incidentally. He will not be ruling and reigning from Washington. He will not be ruling and reigning from Washington. He will be ruling and reigning from Jerusalem. From Jerusalem. Let's see here. Mark McIntosh. All advantages Harris for this debate. They are all against Trump. Bar is set very low for them. Thou shalt not kill. Agree with you both. Betty Truth Seeker says, I don't think Harris campaign wants another debate. Well, Betty, they sure are asking like they are. We'll have to see about that. I don't know. I don't know about whether they do or not. But I think that, again, if there's a silver lining in this for me tonight, I just pray this wakes the mega group up to realize that we've got a war between light and darkness on our hands. And there's some other comments that I hadn't read yet, but I saw them. And I want to come over to Facebook because there was Jason says you can't be a Christian and vote for a candidate that supports death. I'll agree with that, Jason. I'll agree with that totally. I do. I'll agree with that. Absolutely, I agree with that. Dennis says Harris will get a small bump. Dennis Floyd, that will disappear by the end of September, but I think Biden will retire and Harris will move up to president. So who will the Dems bring in to run? Dennis, she's on the ticket. I mean, Tim Walz, I mean, they'll hire a temporary vice president. I think that's your question. But she's on that ticket. She's on that ticket in November. I mean, her and Waltz they have been declared the candidates on the Democrat side, so it really won't matter who they bring in as vice president for a few months. Now, God forbid something happened to her physically and whoever that vice president is became president, then that would get sticky. That would get so sticky. I mean, you're talking about, my goodness, the legal issues over the money, the campaign finance, everything. But your question is a good one. I tend to believe there's a mixed bag. I tend to believe that they're not going to do that, but I may be wrong because he's so close to the finish line. He's only got 3 months to go. I think he's going to wait to November. And if she doesn't win in November, then there may be things. I think he's staying on long enough, and this is just an opinion, for his son. There's a reason that Hunter Biden changed his pleas yesterday, the day before, to all guilty on these gun charges and these tax charges, because now the sentencing will take place before his daddy gets out of office. And as long as Joe's in that office, he's got the power to pardon his son. And what has he got to lose? He ain't coming back. It ain't going to affect Kamala Harris any. People ain't going to care. So I understand where you're asking. I don't think it ultimately matters, but I do understand why you're asking it. Let's see. Roger says the shiny object with lies and deceptive wins the opinion poll tonight. Hopefully people come back to their senses in the coming weeks. Well, Roger, we can only hope. We can only hope. You know, that was one thing me and Lori Mills talked about today a lot, that there is a spiritual fog over people's mind right now. There is a spiritual haze. You know, Magdalene alluded to these rhinos like Chris Christie, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, Mike Pence even. I'm not going to label Nikki Haley as such. I think people got mad at her about her comments this weekend. They didn't help. But Nikki actually made a legitimate point. This name calling does not do anybody any good. I know Trump's hardcore base loves him to duke it out and name call and hit back hard and all that. And that's just, again, the political nature of this. That is the nature of politics. Name calling happens sometimes, and people call people names. They just do. And I mean, it's just the ugliness of it sometimes. There's been some ugly campaigns with the Senate and people lying about others' records, digging up dirt on people, and it's why we just want to regurgitate and vomit when we see all this stuff. But beyond that, regardless of what people know about Kamala Harris tonight, you still got people vote for her. And there is a spiritual haze on people's hearts. And I understand your comment, and I get it. I do get it. That the shiny object may win the hour. But as far as people coming to their senses, I'll put it like this, Roger. I saw a meme the other day by Jack Nicholson, the late actor, not dead yet, but he's retired. He said, my faith in humanity is that I look both ways on a one-way street. And I think that pretty much sums it up. And that's how I have become a lot lately myself. I look both ways on a one-way street. We'll see. We'll see about people coming back to their senses. Your point's well taken. Let's see here. You said something else I wanted to read. You said Trump told the world tonight that Israel won't exist in 2 years if Harris wins the election. He's not right, because Israel will exist. God will protect Israel, but I will tell you what's going to happen. if the Harris administration gets into power, America will turn her back on Israel. It will bode not well. It's not going to be Israel that's not going to be in existence. Roger, it's going to be America. It's going to be America. I'll say it again tonight. There ain't no record of this country right here in the Bible. This one, when the smoke clears of all things, this one's going to be standing. So it would behoove this nation to get her act together tonight and get in line supporting this one. So Trump's comment was probably good political fodder, but Israel will be here in 2 years. I'm not so sure America will, but Israel will be. Israel will be. Interesting comment. Let's see here. Anyway, let's come back over to YouTube and see what we got going on here. Carol Smith said, this abortion issue sure brings out pro-choice voters. Why not pro-life voters? Carol, that's that's an excellent question, and I can't answer that. It goes back to the Hayes, the pro-life movement. Look, you would think, Carol, James said some interesting figures tonight. 50 million Christians, 50 million evangelicals roughly. 15 million of them wasn't even registered to vote. 30 million of them were registered and didn't go vote. That's 50 million Christians. 50 million. And out of that 50 million, let's just say that there was another, probably a few 10, 20 million that voted for the death count, voted for the pro-choice folks. So if 50 million of these Christians were true Christians and they were pro-life, it would make a difference in the election, wouldn't it? So I can't answer that. I don't know, other than just apathy and them not caring about life. That's a good question. Good analysis there. I'm with you. And Betty, I think you've already made that point. People have already made it. Hillary won all the debates, and I wouldn't say she won the debates. Folks, I want to just caution you tonight. You're putting way too much stock in this debate tonight. This debate is going to be forgotten about. I tend to believe what Roger said it'd be, or Dennis Floyd, one of them said it'd be forgotten in a month. People won't even remember this debate in a few weeks. They just won't. It's going to give her a little bump this week, and you might as well just go ahead and get your barf bag ready. Get your little paper bag, if you watch TV at all, and get ready for the Kamala Love Fest tomorrow, because the left-wing media, you're going to think, has been on drugs tonight, having parties, drinking and other things that I can't say on this program. But get ready to barf tomorrow, because Kamala is going to be the new darling of the left-wing media. The Democrat Party, they think that she has risen from the dead because of this performance tonight. And I'm telling you, you might as well get ready for it, but it won't last. It won't last. It won't last. Anyway. Jason Miller says, you would think that all 65 million abortions since 1970 have been all from rape or incest after listening to a Democrat. Jason, that's a well said statement. Very, very true. Jennifer Milano says, who knows how much debate coverage will be given by the networks. Jennifer, they're going to cover it. I think all the networks will have something to say about it. Brit Hume, I'm no fan of Brit Hume. He's a never-Trumper. There's so many never-Trumpers on Fox. I've never heard too many favorable things about Trump coming out of Brit Hume's mouth, and it's fine. It's Brett Bears, all of them, the same way. I don't watch any of it. I just got to the point that if there's breaking news and there's a terrorist attack or something like that overseas, or a weather event, I turn the TV on to follow the weather. Look, and it's gotten so bad, I even have to be careful what sports I watch, because the politics is seeped into the sporting world, and it's just enough to make you regurgitate, and so forth. September the 11th. Cleo says the debate was just to get her sound bites for the media. That's true there. That is true there. Cedric, your question is very interesting. You says, could the K-Camp want another debate because they realize that social media perception is reality these days? Cedric, that might be that you may be onto something there. That may be why they're doing it. Yeah, that may be why they're doing it. I think that Magdalene Rose's point, though, is well taken, that social media and what you see on social media, because Trump's learning this the hard way. Look, it's funny. I even posted one of the memes tonight. JD, Trump bans 2024, and there was a picture of a little cat and said, if not, I'll be for dinner. They're going to have me for dinner. And it's funny. And Jason's out there. He sent me that funny picture tonight. I got to show it again. I showed it on the early show. I can always count on Miller to leave me in stitches. But, I mean, Trump would have been better off tonight just to stick this picture up right here and says, all I got to say tonight when Kamala was hammering him, if I'd have been Trump, all I'd have done was just stick Jason Miller's picture up on my phone and say, this is what's going to happen if Kamala Harris is elected and you don't vote for Trump. This is what's going to happen. By the way, that's two cats in his hand, not even children. Thank you, Miller. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Princess Catherine says, I'm still not clear on what President Trump's stance is on abortion. Catherine, listen, I'm with you. I'm with you. I know that there are two trains of thought. I had my dear buddy Andy Griffin on here about 3-4 weeks ago. He made, and Carla Nicole said the same thing. She was on the night after. They believe, and they're pro-life people, that he's moderating left to appeal to a wider spectrum of voters and not to seem so hardcore. But in reality, he's going to protect life if he gets elected. There's another camp, and there's another train of thought that people are very upset with him that he has lost, and you heard it in James' comments tonight. He's wavering. He's wavering. Now, what I've heard, he believes that the exception for rape and incest is the only reason that abortion should be allowed. And I think Jason Miller had the comment, he's the second comment of the night that really rings clear. He says, you would think that all 65 million abortions, actually it's more than that, Jason, it's more like 84 million since 1970, have been from rape or incest after listening to a Democrat. And I'm with you, buddy. I mean, they act like that all these abortions are for that, and they're not. Trump has said that he believes, Catherine, that is acceptable. I don't. And I hope he comes to his senses about this. But I think abortion's going to be a big, big issue, folks, a bigger issue than we're thinking it's going to be. We got to wrap this up here. If you got a question, make it quick. Because I'm tired. It's almost 1 o'clock. I've been doing 3 shows, and I got to get up and do 3 more tomorrow. We got a 9/11 special coming and around noon tomorrow. Roger says Trump doesn't want to go to the gunfight with a golf club. I'll agree with that. Good to see you, Tim Neal, in the house tonight. Tim, we're coming your way. Coming your way to Ohio land, Buckeye Country. In 2 weeks. September 20th, 21st. Actually, in 1 week and a half. We'll have details on that on our face show tomorrow night. Listen, folks, it's 1 o'clock in the East. I got to get up in the morning. I got a Bible study to do on the face side. At 12 noon tomorrow, we're going to have a special presentation of music, video. I'll have a few thoughts about 9/11. It won't last long. And Dory West will be joining me, perhaps Ricky Wilson, for short prayers over our nation. for the 23rd commemoration of 9/11. So please join us for that. It may be around 1, between 12 and 1, somewhere in that time frame tomorrow. So please join us for that if you can. And then tomorrow night will be our faith night. I don't think at this time we got a faith chat. I was going to, but we have just, I'm going to bypass the faith chat and just teach tomorrow night because we've been going full steam ahead. We did 3 shows today and yesterday, if you count the faith ones. And then we've done 2 more tonight, and we're going into the wee hours of the morning. So we're going to just do 2 tomorrow. We'll have 3 tomorrow because we've got the faith study, the 9/11, and then the faith teaching tomorrow night. Thursday night, Brad Johnson will be back with me. Depending on the conditions on the ground, we will have another late show Thursday night to let you chime in. Did you enjoy the shows tonight? If you did, put some fire in that house. Chad Stewart did an absolutely fantastic job earlier tonight. We hope you can listen to that. And Mark, I try to be a voice of reason. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Can't win for losing with some folks, but that's all right too. These opinions are mine. And we love you all very much for being with us tonight. I know it's been late, and I know you got to get to bed, you folks in the East. Now, you folks out West, y'all got a few more hours till the news wraps up, so y'all enjoy your evening out there. But to the folks in the East, night, get some sleep. May the Lord bless you guys. I'll see you in the morning on the faith study. We'll have a lot more to say about this tomorrow. Let me sleep on it. I'm sure I'll be wired up by Thursday. Me and Johnson will banter this back and forth. And we'll see you all then. And God bless you all. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. We are no wise throwing the towel on President Trump before I get a bunch of emails. Why are you leaving Trump, Chris? Chris ain't leaving Trump. Chris is voting for Trump. Chris is going to support President Trump. Listening to the analysis, he just didn't have a good night tonight. But folks, there's all of us that just don't have. There's some days that things just don't go the way we plan them. He'll regroup. As the old saying goes, roll with the punches. Tomorrow's another day. And tomorrow will be another day for President Trump. And tomorrow will be another day for me and you. Get the cowboy hat right at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's hard to wear your cowboy hat right when you're about to fall asleep on your own show. So I got to get to bed. God bless you guys out there. We'll see you. Take care of yourself. Good night, everybody.